Twinkle Productions presents Tapestry of Tales, a collection of stories from around the world.
The Elephant's Child.
In the high and far-off times, the elephant, O best beloved, had no trunk. He had only a blackish, bulgy nose as big as a boot that he could wiggle about from side to side, but he couldn't pick up things with it. But there was one elephant, a new elephant, an elephant's child, who was full of insatiable curiosity, and that means he asked ever so many questions. And he lived in Africa, and he filled all Africa with his insatiable curiosities. He asked his tall aunt, the ostrich, why her tail feathers grew just so, and his tall aunt, the ostrich, spanked him with her hard claw. He asked his tall uncle, the giraffe, what made his skin spotty, and his tall uncle, the giraffe, spanked him with his hard hoof. And still he was full of insatiable curiosity. He asked his broad aunt, the hippopotamus, why her eyes were red, and his broad aunt, the hippopotamus, spanked him with her broad hoof. And he asked his hairy uncle, the baboon, why melons tasted just so, and his hairy uncle, the baboon, spanked him with his hairy paw. And still he was full of insatiable curiosity. He asked questions about everything that he saw or heard or felt or smelt or touched, and all his uncles and his aunts spanked him, and still he was full of insatiable curiosity. One fine morning in the middle of the procession of the equinoxes, this satiable elephant's child asked a new fine question that he'd never asked before. He asked,
"What does the crocodile have for dinner?"
Then everybody said, "Hush!" in a loud and dreadful tone, and they spanked him immediately and directly without stopping for a long time. By and by, when that was finished, he came upon Colo Bird, sitting in the middle of a wait-a-bit thorn bush, and he said,
"My father has spanked me, and my mother has spanked me, and all my aunts and uncles have spanked me for my insatiable curiosity, and still I want to know what the crocodile has for dinner."
Then Colo Bird said with a mournful cry,
Go to the banks of the great grey green greasy Limpopo River, all set about with fever trees, and find out.
That very next morning, when there was nothing left of the equinoxes because the procession had proceeded according to precedent, this satiable elephant's child took 100 pounds of bananas, the little short red kind, and 100 pounds of sugar cane, the long purple kind, and 17 melons, the greeny crackly kind, and said to all his dear families,
"Goodbye. I am going to the great green greasy Limpopo River, all set about with fever trees, to find out what the crocodile has for dinner."
And they all spanked him once more for luck, though he asked them most politely to stop. Then he went away, a little warm, but not at all astonished, eating melons and throwing the rind about because he could not pick it up. He went from Grahamstown to Kimberley, and from Kimberley to Hamas County, and from Hamas County he went east by north, eating melons all the time, till at last he came to the banks of the great grey green greasy Limpopo River, all set about with fever trees, precisely as Colo Bird had said. Now you must know and understand, O best beloved, that till that very week and day and hour and minute, this insatiable elephant's child had never seen a crocodile, and did not know what one was like. It was all his insatiable curiosity. The first thing that he found was a bicolored python rock snake curled round a rock.
"Excuse me,"
said the elephant's child most politely,
"but have you seen such a thing as a crocodile in these promiscuous parts?"
Have I seen a crocodile?
asked the bi-colored python rock snake in a voice of dreadful scorn.
What will you ask me next?
Excuse me,
said the elephant's child.
But could you kindly tell me what he has for dinner?
Then the bi-colored python rock snake uncoiled himself very quickly from the rock and spanked the elephant's child with his scalesome, flailsome tail.
That is very odd,
said the elephant's child.
Because my father and my mother and my uncle and my aunt, not to mention my other aunt, the hippopotamus, and my other uncle, the baboon, have all spanked me for my insatiable curiosity. And I suppose this is the same thing.
So he said goodbye very politely to the bi-colored python rock snake and helped to coil him up on the rock again, and went on, a little warm but not at all astonished, eating melons and throwing the rind about because he could not pick it up, till he trod on what he thought was a log of wood at the very edge of the great gray-green greasy Limpopo River, all set about with fever trees. But it was really the crocodile, O best beloved, and the crocodile winked one eye like this.
Excuse me,
said the elephant's child most politely.
But do you happen to have seen a crocodile in these promiscuous parts?
Then the crocodile winked the other eye and lifted half his tail out of the mud, and the elephant's child stepped back most politely because he did not wish to be spanked again.
Come hither, little one,
said the crocodile.
Why do you ask such things?
Excuse me,
said the elephant's child most politely.
But my father has spanked me, my mother has spanked me, not to mention my tall aunt the ostrich and my tall uncle the giraffe, who can kick ever so hard, as well as my broad aunt the hippopotamus, and my hairy uncle the baboon, and including the bi-colored python rock snake with the scalesome, flaysome tail just up on the bank there, who spanks harder than any of them, and so if it's quite all the same to you, I don't want to be spanked anymore.
Come hither, little one,
said the crocodile.
For I am the crocodile.
And he wept crocodile tears to show it was quite true. Then the elephant's child grew all breathless and panted and kneeled down on the bank and said,
You are the very person I've been looking for all these long days. Would you please tell me what you have for dinner?
Come hither, little one,
said the crocodile,
and I'll whisper.
Then the elephant's child put his head down close to the crocodile's musky, tusky mouth, and the crocodile caught him by his little nose, which up to that very week, day, hour, and minute had been no bigger than a boot, though much more useful.
I think,
said the crocodile, and he said it between his teeth like this.
I think today I will begin with elephant's child.
At this, O best beloved, the elephant's child was much annoyed, and he said, speaking through his nose like this,
Let go, you're hurting me.
Then the bi-colored python rock snake scuffled down from the bank and said,
My young friend, if you do not now, immediately and instantly pull as hard as ever you can, it is my opinion that your acquaintance,
and by this he meant the crocodile,
will jerk you into yonder limpid stream before you can say Jack Robinson.
This is the way bi-colored python rock snakes always talk. Then the elephant's child sat back on his little haunches and pulled and pulled and pulled, and his nose began to stretch. And the crocodile floundered into the water, making it all creamy with his great sweeps of his tail, and he pulled and pulled and pulled. And the elephant's child's nose kept on stretching, and the elephant's child spread all his little four legs and pulled and pulled and pulled, and his little nose kept on stretching, and the crocodile threshed his tail like an oar, and he pulled and pulled and pulled, and at each pull the elephant's child's nose grew longer and longer, and it hurt him hideous. Then the elephant's child felt his legs slipping, and he said through